Welcome to a quiet corner of the night, here with Dreamtime Science. Envision a cozy study, warmed by the amber flicker of candlelight, where the delicate rustle of flipping pages mingles with the hush of the world outside. You've arrived just in time for a peaceful voyage, one that carries you gently between waking and dreaming. If you find comfort in these stories, a gentle tap on the subscribe button would share your presence with us, and a comment telling us from where you listen would be a quiet gift. Now, ease yourself back into your resting place. Invite the cool softness of your blanket. Let your breath flow deep and calm. Together we will slowly unveil wonders meant to cradle your mind and ease your heart. When you are ready, we'll begin, slowly, softly, simply. Tonight, as the world sighs beneath a velvet sky, we'll glide very slowly, very gently, into the quiet magic that fills the air after rain, the soft, earthy breath of Petrichor. Like a whispered secret from the earth itself, this delicate scent invites our curiosity to wander, wrapping us in wonder from a safe, pillow-soft distance. Let's drift together into the science behind this soothing, fragrant embrace. A soft tap of the like button or a whispered subscription tells me these calming discoveries resonate with you. What aspect of science brings you the most wonder? Now take a moment. Adjust your blanket. Find the perfect hollow in your pillow. Let your shoulders melt. Breathe in and out. Night presses gently on the land, its silence broken only by the distant sigh of wind weaving through the sleeping branches. The air, thick with anticipation, seems to hold its breath. All around, the world is waiting for something. And then, somewhere beyond the horizon, the first hush of rain begins. A soft percussion upon rooftops and soil, a silver whisper against stone. Before a single drop has struck your skin, you sense it, a fragrance rising, subtle and stirring, as ancient as the earth itself. It is the scent of rain's arrival, a breath of memory and promise, the mysterious perfume known as Petrichor. This scent, so evocative and elusive, has haunted the imaginations of poets, wanderers, and scientists alike. It is a song written in air, a prelude to the storm's unfolding symphony. As you lie in the gentle twilight, let your mind wander to those moments when the rain first announces itself, not with thunder, but with aroma. The world seems to pause, colors deepening, edges softened. Somewhere in the mind's secret garden, doors open onto old memories, the rush of childhood feet across wet grass, the shelter of a porch as the sky darkens, the hush of an evening spent listening to the world's heartbeat in the rhythm of falling rain. Throughout history, the arrival of this scent has been more than a meteorological event. For many, it is a signal of hope, of cleansing, of renewal, a phenomenon woven through folklore, language, and art. In ancient India, poets gave rain 100 names, each tied to a season, a feeling, a longing. The first monsoon, they wrote, carried the scent of longing lovers parted by distance, the earth's own yearning for the sky. In the Australian outback, Aboriginal stories tell of spirits who anoint the ground before rain, painting the soil with invisible oils that awaken as the first drops fall. The Greeks too had their stories. The rain was tears of the gods, a blessing or a warning, the boundary between chaos and order. It was not until the last century that science, with its careful patience, began to unravel the threads of this ancient riddle. But before we descend into the chemistry and physics of Petrichor, let us linger a little longer in the realm of wonder. For the smell of rain is not just a sensory event, it is an invitation. It is an interlude in time, a space where memory, imagination, and the world's hidden machinery all converge. Consider how rain's aroma has found its way into the worlds we dream up, those of science fiction and speculative futures. In Ray Bradbury's Martian Landscapes, where rain is a stranger and water is a luxury, the very idea of Petrichor becomes a symbol of home, of Earth's lost innocence. In distant colonies on other worlds, writers have imagined machines that could synthesize the smell of rain, offering solace to settlers longing for their blue planet's familiar breath. Rain's perfume becomes not just a physical sensation, but a bridge of longing, a way to remember, to hope, to dream. Even in our world, the scent of rain is often described as otherworldly, a phenomenon that can make familiar places feel new, or strange lands feel suddenly home-like. There is a bittersweetness to it, a reminder that something is about to change. The ground is about to be washed clean. The air is about to be made new. In that liminal moment, before the downpour, the world is suspended between what was and what will be. Artists too have reached for this elusive note. Painters attempt to capture it in the shimmer of wet leaves, the dark gleam of stone after a shower. Musicians evoke it in the trembling hush before a crescendo, the hush that holds a promise. Writers, from ancient haiku poets to modern novelists, summon it with words that evoke longing, nostalgia, and the wildness of untamed nature. The scent of rain is not only experienced, it is remembered, anticipated, mourned, and celebrated. In the language of dreams, the scent of rain is a cipher, a secret message from the world's deeper layers. It is the earth's exhalation, a signal that something hidden is being revealed. It is a melody composed by centuries of sun and soil, of roots and stones, and the great breathing sky. When you step outside as the first drops begin to fall, you are not just smelling dampness or wet grass. You are inhaling the memory of forests and deserts, the laughter of rivers, the slow patience of rocks. You are sharing a moment with every creature who has ever paused to lift its nose and catch the scent of coming rain. In some cultures, the scent is thought to bring luck or to carry omens. Farmers in distant villages would watch the sky and sniff the wind, waiting for the first hint of Petrichor to tell them when to sow or reap. Hunters would read the wind, knowing that rain's arrival would change the patterns of animals on the move. City dwellers, hemmed in by concrete and glass, might pause on a balcony or at an open window, letting the scent transport them to places wild and green. Even the youngest children know it, though they may not have words for it. There is a thrill in that first hint of storm on a summer afternoon, a sense that something magical is about to unfold. The scent of rain is an invitation to dance, to run barefoot, to let go of routine and surrender to the wildness of weather. In that moment, the world seems both smaller and larger. Smaller because the storm brings everyone together in shared shelter. Larger because the rain reminds us of forces beyond our control, ancient rhythms that shape our days. Science fiction, always attentive to the things that make us human, has used Petrichor as a touchstone for memory and identity. In stories of artificial worlds, space stations, domed colonies, generations ships, the absence of rain's scent becomes a quiet ache. Characters recall it as a marker of lost earthiness, a connection to a planet left behind. Some tales imagine advanced technologies that can simulate the scent, offering comfort or nostalgia, while others explore the longing for something that cannot be replicated, a reminder of what it means to be truly alive. But even as technology races ahead, there is something irreducible about the experience of rain's aroma. It slips past language and reason, rooted in the oldest parts of the brain. It is a scent that bypasses analysis and goes straight to the heart, to the limbic system where memory and emotion are entwined. The smell of rain is, for many, a portal to childhood, to simpler times, to moments of wonder and awe. It is, in the words of one poet, the smell of life returning. There is a paradox in Petrichor's allure. It is both common and rare, the product of ordinary weather, yet always a bit miraculous. We may walk through 1,000 showers and never tire of it, never become wholly accustomed to its charm. Each storm is different, each rainfall a variation on a theme. Sometimes the scent is sharp and green, tinged with the promise of thunder. Sometimes it is soft and earthy, heavy with the memory of sun and stone. Sometimes it disappears altogether, lost in the rush of wind or drowned by the torrent. And yet when it comes, we notice, we pause, we breathe a little more deeply. Perhaps it is because Petrichor is a signal, an ancient code written into our biology. For our ancestors, the scent of rain meant survival, the return of water to parched lands, the promise of crops and grass, the easing of thirst. It was a sign that the world's slow machinery was still turning, that life would continue. Even now, in cities far removed from fields and forests, that old response lingers. We feel it in the quickening of the pulse, the subtle lift of mood. The storm brings with it not just water, but a sense of possibility. In the literature of the future, Petrichor becomes a symbol of what we have lost and what we might regain. On planets with no rain, the longing for its scent becomes a metaphor for all the small, irreplaceable things that make a world home. In the minds of androids and artificial intelligences, the inability to perceive Petrichor is a marker of difference, a sign that they are not and may never be fully human. The smell of rain in these stories is more than a chemical phenomenon. It is a thread connecting us to earth, to memory, to ourselves. As you listen in the hush before sleep, let your thoughts drift through these layers of meaning. The song of the storm is not just thunder, not just rain, but a fragrance that carries the weight of centuries, the dreams of storytellers, the hopes of farmers, the memories of children. It is a bridge between worlds, the world of the senses and the world of the mind, the world as it is and the world as it might be. The question lingers, soft as mist on the edge of dawn. Why does rain smell so good? What secrets are held in that fleeting aroma, so powerful that it can move us to tears, to laughter, to longing? The answer lies somewhere in the meeting of earth and sky, in the dance of molecules and memory, in the patient work of time. But for now, let the mystery remain. Let the fragrance of rain, real or remembered, drift through your thoughts like a lullaby. Let it carry you through fields of story and science, through the shadowed corridors of ancient forests and the gleaming halls of imagined futures. The storm is only beginning, its song rising in the night. The world waits, poised between silence and sound, between what is known and what is still to be discovered. Outside the rain falls softly, each drop a note in the unfolding melody. Somewhere in the darkness, the answer to the riddle of Petrichor waits, patient as stone, ready to be uncovered, but not yet, not just yet. The air is thick with promise, and the night is young. The scent of rain lingers, inviting you deeper into its mystery, deeper into the heart of the storm. Deep within the hush, between thunder and the gentle tap of first raindrops, something remarkable stirs. It is not only the arrival of water from the sky that signals the transformation of the air, but a subtle, ancient chemistry, the release of Petrichor, the scent that rises like a memory from dry earth as it greets the rain. Tonight, as you drift at the edge of wakefulness, let us journey into the hidden heart of a raindrop, following the threads of science and sensation that entwine to create this most evocative aroma. The true origins of Petrichor lie far below the surface, in the quiet, sun-baked soils and rocks that patiently wait out the droughts and dry spells. For days, weeks, sometimes months, these surfaces stew beneath the heat and weight of the air, absorbing a slow accumulation of organic debris, fragments of leaves, traces of pollen, the faint exhalations of living roots and decaying matter. Among this tapestry, a set of molecular actors begin to emerge, invisible to our eyes but destined to play a starring role in the story of rain scent. Chief among these is a compound known as geosmin, whose name in Greek means earth smell. Geosmin is a product of certain soil-dwelling bacteria, most notably the actinomycetes. These tiny architects of scent, with their thread-like bodies and complex lives, flourish beneath the surface, breaking down organic material and, in the process, excreting geosmin as a metabolic byproduct. It is a molecule with a remarkable potency. So sensitive is the human nose to geosmin that we can detect it in concentrations as low as a few parts per trillion, a feat that rivals the olfactory prowess of sharks scenting blood in the water. Yet, The bouquet of rain is not conjured by geosmin alone. Another vital player is a family of volatile oils secreted by plants, especially during periods of dryness. Over time, these oils leach from leaves and stems, seeping into the surrounding soil and dust, where they linger, awaiting the arrival of rain. The most notable of these is a yellowish oil called Petrichor itself, a term coined in 1964 by two Australian scientists, Isabel Joy Baer and R.G. Thomas, who sought a name for the mysterious essence that rain draws from the ground. Petrichor, from the Greek petra, meaning stone, and ichor, the ethereal fluid that flows in the veins of the gods. But how do these molecules, secreted and sequestered in the crust of the earth, rise up to greet us only when it rains? The answer lies in the choreography between falling water and parched earth. As the first droplets descend, they strike the ground with a delicate violence, trapping tiny pockets of air beneath them. Each raindrop in that moment of impact becomes a miniature laboratory, compressing, agitating, and ultimately releasing the hidden perfumes of dust and earth. High-speed photography and microscopic study have revealed what the eye alone cannot see. When a raindrop lands upon a porous surface, it does not merely soak in. Instead, it creates a rapid explosion of air bubbles which shoot upward through the droplet and burst into the air, carrying with them a cargo of volatile molecules, geosmin, plant oils, and other organic compounds. These are the aerosols of Petrichor, launched from the ground in countless invisible fountains, to be swept up by passing breezes and drawn deep into our waiting nostrils. The complexity of this process is astonishing. The size and speed of the raindrops, the texture of the earth, the temperature and humidity of the air, all conspire to shape the intensity and character of the scent. A light drizzle on dry soil will often produce the strongest effect. Each small drop maximizes the creation of airborne bubbles, while the dry ground is rich with accumulated oils and geosmin. By contrast, a heavy, saturating downpour may overwhelm the production of Petrichor, washing away the source before it can be fully released. The first rain after a long drought is often the most fragrant of all, a sensory chorus as the earth exults in its return to moisture. Yet for all its universality, the experience of Petrichor is far from simple. What is it about this scent that so captivates us? Why do so many people across cultures and continents report a sense of pleasure, nostalgia, or even longing when the smell of rain rises from the ground? Here the science of scent turns inward into the architecture of the human mind. One common myth is that our love of Petrichor is purely psychological, a learned association from childhood memories or cultural storytelling. While it is true that scent is deeply tied to memory, our olfactory bulbs connect directly to the limbic system, the seat of emotion. Recent research suggests a more ancient root. Geosmin, in particular, appears to trigger an innate response in humans and other animals. In evolutionary terms, the ability to detect geosmin may once have offered a survival advantage. It signals the presence of water, of freshly disturbed soil, of the promise of life in a thirsty land. Camels, for instance, have been shown to use their keen sense of smell to locate waterholes, and certain insects seek out geosmin-rich environments for laying their eggs. But the story does not end with biology alone. There is a sensory paradox at the heart of Petrichor. Geosmin, when present in water supplies, is often regarded as unpleasant, even musty or muddy. Yet when lofted into the air by rain, blended with plant oils and the crispness of atmospheric ozone, it becomes enchanting, evocative, almost sacred. The context in which our senses encounter geosmin shapes our perception of it, transforming a simple chemical into a portal of experience. Ozone, too, deserves mention in this olfactory symphony. While not a component of Petrichor itself, ozone often accompanies the approach of a storm, created by the electrical ballet of lightning splitting oxygen molecules in the upper air. The resulting sharp, clean scent mingles with the earthier notes of geosmin and plant oils, adding a top note that hints at freshness and danger, of wild energies unleashed. In this way, the scent of rain is never a single note, but a complex chord, earth, water, sky, all braided together. To understand Petrichor fully, one must also consider the microcosms that produce and consume it. The actinomycetes, those soil-dwelling chemists, are part of a vast underground network of life. Their ability to break down organic matter and release geosmin is intertwined with the cycles of decay and renewal that sustain the biosphere. When rain falls, it does more than simply wet the ground. It nourishes the bacteria, awakens dormant seeds, and sets in motion a cascade of chemical reactions that ripple outward through the ecosystem. The scent we perceive as Petrichor is, in a sense, the earth's exhalation, a sigh of relief, a signal that the wheel of life is turning once again. If you were to shrink yourself to the size of a soil particle, you would find yourself in a landscape of staggering complexity. Each grain of sand, each fleck of clay, is sheathed in a film of invisible chemicals, fatty acids, alcohols, esters, left behind by the living and the dead. Between these grains, tunnels and chambers are carved by the roots of plants and the burrowings of insects and worms. Here, the actinomycetes weave their filaments, exuding geosmin in minute bursts. When rainwater seeps in, it dissolves, sweeps, and stirs this chemical tapestry, liberating the molecules that have lain dormant through the drought. Were you able to listen at this scale, you might hear an orchestra of tiny sounds, the crackling of soil as it absorbs water, the subtle fizz of bubbles forming and rising, the shiver of plant roots as they drink in renewed moisture. These physical and chemical reactions are the prelude to Petrichor, the hidden mechanics behind the poetry of scent. It is tempting, in the face of such intricacy, to imagine that the pleasure we take in Petrichor is a kind of accident, a quirk of evolution, a coincidence of chemistry and perception. But perhaps there is a deeper resonance at work. The molecules that create the scent of rain are not unique to the present. They have existed for millions of years, cycling through the air, the earth, and the bodies of living things. Our ancestors, too, would have smelled the first rains on ancient savannas, would have felt the pulse of relief and anticipation as the aroma signaled the end of thirst and the return of green. In some cultures, Petrichor is woven into myth and ritual. The monsoon's arrival in India, for instance, is celebrated not just for its life-giving water, but for the scent that precedes it, a sign from the gods, a signal to sow new seeds. Aboriginal Australians have recognised and named the smell for thousands of years, associating it with the return of the ancestors and the renewal of the land. Science, in tracing the molecular roots of Petrichor, does not dispel its mystery. Rather, it deepens the wonder, revealing layers upon layers of meaning and connection. As you lie quiet, perhaps you recall your own encounters with rain's perfume, the sudden hush before a storm, the way the light changes, the first cool breeze carrying the scent of distant showers. The pleasure you feel is both personal and universal, a meeting of sensory memory, biological inheritance, and the timeless cycle of water and earth. It is said that certain fragrances can calm the mind, slow the heart, ease the drift into sleep. Petrichor, though wild and unbottled, possesses this lulling power in abundance. It is the scent of anticipation fulfilled, of thirst quenched, of life renewed. Its molecules, though small and fleeting, carry messages that resonate in the deepest chambers of the brain. Still, mysteries remain. Not all rains smell the same, nor do all soils yield the same bouquet. The precise blend of geosmin, plant oils, and other volatiles varies with climate, vegetation, and the history of the land. Some regions, rich in certain minerals or plant species, produce a sharper, more resinous petrichor. Others are sweet and mellow, tinged with the aroma of wild grasses or fallen leaves. To the attentive nose, each rainfall is a new composition, familiar yet subtly different. There are, too, the questions of the future. How will the changing climate, the shifting patterns of rainfall and drought, alter the chemistry of Petrichor? What new scents will arise as the earth warms, as new plants and microbes colonize the land? For now, these are questions without answers, threads left dangling in the tapestry of science. And so, as the rain falls outside your window, whether real or remembered, the scent of Petrichor drifts through the air, a bridge between the hidden world of soil and the open sky. Each molecule is a messenger, bearing news of renewal, of ancient cycles repeating. To breathe in Petrichor is to be connected for a fleeting moment to the deep heart of the earth itself. Somewhere beyond the reach of your senses, in the darkness beneath the roots and stones, the actinomycetes go about their work, weaving the next chapter in the story of rain's scent. The clouds above gather, heavy with promise. The dance of molecules continues, quiet, intricate, unending, waiting for the next drop to fall. Across the ages, humans have been entranced by sensations they could not see. Among these, the scent of rain, so fleeting, so intangible, posed a special riddle. How to catch a perfume that danced upon the air only in rare moments, that seemed woven from the very breath of the earth and sky. To understand such a phenomenon would require not just attentive noses, but also ingenious minds, and the evolution of instruments subtle enough to coax secrets from the invisible. Tonight let us drift through the quiet laboratories and thoughtful experiments, tracing the path by which the mystery of Petrichor has been slowly unveiled. Long before the modern age, the fragrance that heralded the rain was known only as a delightful enigma. Poets wrote of it, farmers welcomed it, and children learned to expect it as the first sign of an oncoming storm. Yet for centuries, the true nature of this aroma, its ingredients, its origin, its very reason for being, remained a matter of speculation, a gentle background to the cycles of human life. It was not until the 20th century, with the arrival of new scientific tools, that the first serious attempts to study the smell of rain began to bear fruit. The story of Petrichor's scientific exploration is as much a tale of human curiosity as it is one of technical prowess. We turn first to the middle of that century, to a laboratory on the edges of a dry and ancient continent, Australia, 1964. Two researchers, Isabel Joy Baer and Richard G. Thomas, worked at the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organisation, CSIRO, where much of their attention was devoted to the chemistry of soil and minerals. In the parched landscapes of the Australian outback, the people knew intimately the scent that rose from the ground at the first touch of rain. The scientists, too, were familiar with it, a sharp, sweet, earthy perfume that seemed to drift up from the rocks themselves. Baer and Thomas were among the first to ask, with scientific seriousness, "What is this smell?" To answer the question, they would need to capture a ghost, an essence so light and elusive that it could vanish before it was even noticed. They began, as all good investigators do, with careful observation. They noticed that certain kinds of rock, especially those that had lain long exposed to the air, gave off a stronger scent than others when sprinkled with water. This was not merely the result of water vapor or the dust being disturbed. Something deeper was at work. Gathering samples of rock and soil, Baer and Thomas devised a simple but telling experiment. They dripped water onto dry stone inside sealed glass vessels, then drew off the air above the wet rock. Into this air they reached with the first of their modern tools, the gas chromatograph. The gas chromatograph, now a staple of chemistry laboratories around the world, was then a novel device. Its workings are both delicate and precise. Inside the instrument, a sample of air is injected into a long, narrow tube coated with special chemicals. As the air is pushed through the tube by a gentle flow of gas, its various components, molecules of different kinds and sizes, move at different speeds. Some are slowed by interactions with the chemicals lining the tube. Others rush ahead. By the time the air emerges, its ingredients have been separated in time each arriving at a detector in a unique sequence. The result is a kind of molecular fingerprint, a graph of peaks and valleys that tells the trained eye what is present in the invisible mixture. When Bear and Thomas examined the air collected from their wetted rocks, they found something remarkable. Amid the usual suspects, traces of water, carbon dioxide, and other expected gases, there emerged a set of peaks corresponding to a group of organic compounds, previously unremarked in this context. Chief among these was a molecule they would come to call geosmin, from the Greek for earth smell. But there was another, more elusive scent, a yellowish oil that seemed to be released from the rocks themselves only when water kissed their surfaces. This oil, they discovered, was produced by certain plants during long dry spells. Over time, it seeped into the earth and adhered to the surfaces of stones and soil particles. When rain arrived, the oil was liberated, rising into the air as a fine mist of aromatic droplets. Bear and Thomas named this oil Petrichor, from Petra, the Greek for stone, and ichor, the word for the ethereal fluid said to flow in the veins of the gods. Their work, published in the prestigious journal Nature, brought the hidden chemistry of rain's scent into the light for the first time, yet their experiments, ingenious as they were, only scratched the surface. The tools of the time could tell them what was present, but not always how it was released, nor where each molecule had come from. The quest would continue, as all scientific quests do, with ever more refined methods and ever deeper questions. As decades passed, the study of Petrichor evolved alongside technology. Scientists now sought to answer subtler riddles. Why does the first rain, after a long dry period, smell so much stronger? How do the molecules of Petrichor travel from wet rock into the open air? What role do living organisms, bacteria, fungi, plants, play in the creation of these scents? To solve these puzzles, a new generation of researchers turned to ever more sensitive instruments. Mass spectrometry, for example, became a crucial ally. This technique allows scientists to weigh and identify molecules with astonishing accuracy. In a mass spectrometer, molecules are ionized, given an electric charge, then accelerated through a magnetic field. Depending on their mass, they are deflected to different degrees, creating a pattern that reveals their identity. With this tool, chemists could analyze even the faintest traces of Petrichor's ingredients, mapping the complex tapestry of compounds that make up the scent of fresh rain. But identifying the molecules was only part of the story. To understand the dance between rain and earth, researchers needed to study the process in real time, the moment when raindrops meet dry soil and the aromatic mist is born. For this, they turned to the microscope and the high-speed camera, bringing the invisible world into view. Imagine, if you will, a single raindrop falling onto a dusty road. It seems a simple event, but at a microscopic scale, it is a drama of startling complexity. scientists at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology devised experiments to watch this moment unfold. Using high-speed cameras capable of capturing thousands of frames per second, they observed the impact of water droplets striking dry surfaces. What they saw was astonishing. With each impact, tiny bubbles of air became trapped beneath the droplet, then burst upwards, launching minuscule aerosols, fine droplets of water carrying with them the aromatic oils and soil particles that had lain dormant in the dust. These aerosols, invisible to the naked eye, are the couriers of Petrichor. They rise in a delicate spray, dispersing geosmin, plant oils, and other fragrant molecules into the air. Only then do they meet our waiting noses, announcing the arrival of rain with that unmistakable scent. To study these aerosols, scientists employed laser-based instruments called aerosol spectrometers. These devices shine beams of light through the air, measuring how particles scatter and absorb the light. By analyzing the pattern, researchers can determine the size, composition, and concentration of the droplets released by rain. In some experiments, air samples are drawn through filters and analyzed chemically, allowing for a detailed inventory of the molecules present. Still, the story of Petrichor's detection is not only one of machines and measurements, it is also a tale of collaboration between disciplines, chemists, physicists, biologists, even meteorologists, all lending their perspectives to unravel the mystery. Biologists, for example, traced the origins of geosmin to the activity of soil-dwelling bacteria, particularly a group known as Streptomyces. These microbes, thriving in the moist darkness of the earth, produce geosmin as part of their life cycle. When the soil is disturbed by rain, by plough, by the passing of animals, the scent is released, a signal both ancient and profound. To confirm such findings, scientists use genetic sequencing techniques, identifying the specific genes responsible for geosmin production. They cultivate bacteria in the laboratory, isolate their aromatic products, and compare them to the molecules found in rain-washed air. In this way, the circle is completed, from the unseen world beneath our feet, through the laboratory bench, to the perfumed air that greets us after a storm. In recent years, advances in atmospheric chemistry have allowed for even more nuanced understanding. Scientists now use field-deployable gas chromatographs and mass spectrometers, compact, rugged instruments that can be carried into forests, deserts, or city streets. During a rainstorm, researchers collect air samples directly from the environment, capturing the changing bouquet of scents as rain begins to fall, as the ground soaks, as the air clears. Data are logged in real time, allowing for the mapping of Petrichor's presence across landscapes and climates. Even satellites have joined the search, albeit in a broader sense. While no satellite can smell rain, they monitor humidity, soil moisture, and other variables that affect the release of aromatic compounds. By correlating meteorological data with the conditions known to create strong petrichor, scientists can predict where and when the fragrance will be most vivid. Such studies reveal that the smell of rain is not only a product of chemistry, but also of geography and weather, an ever-changing symphony orchestrated by the Earth's cycles. Clever experiments continue to probe the subtleties. In some, volunteers are asked to sniff vials containing pure geosmin, Petrichor oil, and other candidates, rating their similarity to the scent of fresh rain. In others, air samples are captured from different soils and rocks, wetted in controlled laboratory conditions. The results are compared, patterns sought, hypotheses refined. Through it all, the tools grow ever more refined, the questions ever more intricate. Scientists now ask, how does the scent of rain differ in a pine forest versus a grassy meadow, on city pavement versus ancient stone? What other molecules, beyond geosmin and petrichor, contribute to the overall effect? How do temperature and humidity modulate the release and perception of these scents? Each answer adds to new questions, each experiment a step deeper into the labyrinth. Yet even as our understanding grows, the essential nature of petrichor remains elusive, somehow always a step ahead of our grasp. For every molecule measured, for every process mapped in exquisite detail, there is the undeniable fact that the smell of rain is, in the end, an experience, a fleeting communion between earth and air and living being. The tools of science can reveal its ingredients, trace its pathways, measure its presence to the parts per billion. But when the first drop falls and the scent rises, there is always something beyond the sum of its parts, a memory, a longing, a whisper of the eternal. In laboratories and field stations, in wind-swept deserts and city gardens, the search continues. With every new tool, with every clever experiment, we come a little closer to understanding how the invisible becomes present, how the earth's hidden fragrances are set free by the rain, yet the story is not complete, not in the laboratory, nor in the world outside. For as the scent of rain drifts through the air, it beckons us onward, inviting us to look deeper, to listen more closely, to follow the trail of the invisible. And so, as we linger on the threshold of understanding, we find ourselves drawn into the next layer of the mystery, not just how petrichor is created or detected, but why it matters, how it shapes the lives of plants and animals, how it echoes through ecosystems, how it weaves us into the fabric of the living world. The scent of rain, elusive yet ever present, leads us onward into the heart of its meaning. There is a moment, just before the first drop falls, when the world seems to hold its breath. The leaves tremble, the birds hush, and a hush settles even upon the thoughts of those who walk beneath the laden sky. In this suspended instant, a scent rises, subtle, ancient, and utterly unmistakable. It is the perfume of rain upon dry earth, the gentle exhalation known as petrichor. It is neither mere chemistry nor simple nostalgia, but something deeper, a bridge between the material world and the inner landscapes of human memory and longing. The rain's scent is not the loud proclamation of a rose in bloom, or the sharp tang of ozone after lightning carves the sky. Petrichor is a whisper, not a shout, a quiet unveiling that seems to seep into the very soul of the observer. It is as if, for a fleeting moment, the earth herself leans up to greet the rain, and in that embrace releases her secret. The word Petrichor, coined only in the last century, belies the agelessness of the sensation it describes. For as long as humanity has walked upright, as long as we have tilled soil or trekked wide grasslands, this fragrance has accompanied the start of every storm. But why does this smell, above all others, reach so deeply into us? What is it about the subtle alchemy of rain and earth that can stir memories, evoke longing, and even bring solace or joy? The answer lies partly in the intricate dance of molecules, yes, but it also resides in the architecture of the human mind, a mind shaped by eons of coexistence with the rhythms of water and soil. From a purely physiological standpoint, the path is straightforward. In the nose, olfactory receptors recognize the geosmin, the oils, the medley of airborne compounds released by the first shower. But the journey does not end in the nasal cavity. Electrical signals race up the olfactory nerve, bypassing the usual rational centers, and arrive instead in the limbic system, the seat of emotion and memory. Here, in this ancient part of the brain, scent wields a power unmatched by sight or sound. A single inhalation can unlock doorways to childhood, to places long vanished, to feelings thought forgotten. It is no accident that so many speak of the smell of rain as a key to memory. In the patchwork of our personal histories, rain often marks beginnings and endings, passages and pauses. For some, it conjures the thunder that rolled over a childhood home, the scent that drifted in through an open window as stories were read aloud in the glow of lamplight. For others, it is the memory of waiting, umbrella in hand, for a loved one to arrive, the world awash in silver, and the air alive with Petrichor's promise. In the fleeting convergence of rain and dust, we are transported not only to other times, but to other selves, youthful, hopeful, or perhaps simply more attentive to wonder. And yet, Petrichor is not merely a personal phenomenon. It is a thread that binds us to landscapes, to communities, to the wider web of life. Across continents and centuries, poets and philosophers have found in the smell of rain a metaphor for renewal. In ancient texts, the coming of rain was not just a meteorological event, but a visitation, a blessing poured from the sky. Rituals were devised to beckon rain, songs sung in its honor, and the first scent of earth after a long drought was greeted with gratitude and awe. The aroma of rain is, in a sense, one of humanity's oldest shared experiences, a signal that the cycle of thirst and quenching, of waiting and fulfillment, endures. There is a universality to this sensation that transcends language and culture. In the villages of India, the monsoon's arrival is heralded by the release of earth's fragrance, a sign that the land will soon awaken, crops will grow, and lives dependent on the rhythm of rain will be sustained. In Australia, Aboriginal peoples have woven the smell of wet earth into their stories of creation, recognizing the scent as both a physical reality and a spiritual touchstone. Even in the concrete canyons of modern cities, where the earth is hidden beneath layers of asphalt and steel, the smell of rain finds its way, rising from parks, from cracks in the pavement, from the moss that clings in forgotten corners. It reminds even the most urban among us that we are, at heart, creatures of the land. But Petrichor is not merely a trigger for nostalgia or a prompt for poetry. It is also a marker of our evolutionary inheritance. Long before the rise of civilization, when our ancestors roamed savannas and forests, the smell of rain would have carried urgent information. To a hunter-gatherer, the arrival of a storm might spell relief from heat, the filling of streams, the sprouting of edible greens. The ability to sense and respond to the subtle perfume of rain could mean the difference between survival and hardship. Even now, we carry within us the vestiges of that ancient attunement, a responsiveness to rain's scent that transcends conscious thought and taps into the deep well of instinct. Consider, too, the way Petrichor binds us to the more than human world. The act of rain falling on soil is not a solitary event, but a conversation, a mingling of sky and earth, of water and stone, of plant and microbe. Each time we inhale the scent of rain, we are, in a small way, participating in this dialogue. The molecules that reach our noses are the handiwork of countless organisms, the actinomycetes that labor unseen in the dirt, the roots that draw oils from stone, the rain itself, born in the clouds, traveling unimaginable distances before finally coming to rest. To smell Petrichor is to be reminded of interconnection, of the ceaseless interchange between the living and the inert. Some have speculated that our affinity for the scent of rain is evidence of biophilia, a love of life and living systems encoded into our very being. The term, first proposed by the biologist E.O. Wilson, describes the instinctive bond that humans feel with the natural world. Petrichor may be one of the most intimate expressions of that bond. In moments when the world is softened by rain and the earth's perfume rises to greet us, we are invited to remember that we are not merely observers, but participants woven into the tapestry of water, rock, and root. Yet for all its intimacy, Petrichor remains a mystery, a phenomenon that resists full capture by language or analysis. Scientists can describe the molecules, poets can evoke the feelings, but there is always something left unsaid, a residue of the ineffable. Perhaps that is why the smell of rain feels, to so many, like a gentle haunting. It is a reminder of what lies just beneath the surface, the possibility of renewal, the persistence of memory, the enduring dialogue between earth and sky. In certain moments, when the rain is steady and the world is quiet, it is possible to feel as though time itself has slowed. The present expands, the past draws near, and the boundaries between self and world begin to blur. The scent of rain becomes a kind of threshold, a place where one can pause, breathe, and remember. It is in these intervals that the true gift of Petrichor is revealed, not merely a pleasant aroma, but an invitation to presence, to gratitude, to wonder. And still the story of Petrichor is not finished. With each new generation, the smell of rain gathers new meanings. For a child, it might be the scent of adventure, of puddles to be splashed, of stories to be invented beneath dripping eaves. For the elderly, it might be a portal to lost summers, to the memory of hands in cool mud, to the laughter of friends now gone. For all, it is a constant, a thread that weaves through the changing seasons of a lifetime. Modern life, with its rush and clamour, can dull the senses to such subtle gifts. Yet, even as we retreat behind walls and screens, the rain persists, and so does its scent. It seeps into subway stations, drifts through open windows, pools in courtyards and alleyways. It reminds us, gently, insistently, that the world is alive and that we are part of its breathing, cycling story. Some have tried to capture Petrichor in bottles, to reproduce it in perfumes and candles, to distill its essence for moments when rain is absent. But the true magic of rain's scent is inseparable from the context in which it arises. It is not simply a collection of molecules, but a phenomenon born of timing, place, and anticipation. The smell of rain after months of drought is different from the scent of a brief summer shower. The fragrance that rises from a city street is not the same as that which drifts over a field or forest. Each encounter is unique, shaped by the land, the weather, and the inner landscape of the person who breathes it in. And so Petrichor remains a kind of gift, unbidden, unpredictable, and all the more precious for its ephemerality. It is a fleeting presence, a visitor who arrives with the rain and fades with the sun. To notice it is to participate in a ritual as old as humanity, the ritual of paying attention, of opening oneself to the world's quiet offerings. In the end, perhaps the greatest mystery of Petrichor is not how it is made, but what it makes possible. It is a catalyst for reflection, a prompt for reverie, a signal that the world is not merely a backdrop to our lives, but an active participant in the formation of meaning. When we inhale the scent of rain, we are reminded, if only for a moment, that we are connected, not only to the earth beneath our feet, but to the vast unfolding story of which we are a part. And as the rain continues its quiet work, softening the air, coaxing forth green shoots, erasing the sharp edges of the day, the scent lingers just at the edge of perception. It is a promise, a memory, a question. What will the world smell like after the next rain? What stories will rise with the mist? What new connections, as yet unimagined, will be forged in the mingling of water and earth? Outside, the last drops fall, and the scent of Petrichor ebbs slowly away, leaving behind a world that feels, for a brief while, both familiar and utterly transformed. But the memory endures, woven into the fabric of experience, a gentle reminder that in the meeting of rain and earth we are always invited to pause, to wonder, and to breathe in the mystery that surrounds us. As our journey through the fragrant dance of Petrichor drifts to a close, We watch the scent's comet tail fading gently into the hush of a rain-washed world. May this quiet wonder settle softly in your thoughts like a whispered secret carried on the breeze. Until we meet again beneath the starlit sky, return for more Dreamtime tales to soothe and inspire your cosmic curiosity.